Hello, everyone. Today, I want to talk about Lindsay Lohan. She was one of the biggest child stars in the world. Hollywood believed she would become the next Julia Roberts. Instead, she became the face of celebrity meltdowns. Lindsay Lohan's story isn't just about fame. It's about what happens when a child grows up under the relentless spotlight of Hollywood. From starring in Disney classics to dominating teen comedies, and then making headlines for arrests, rehab, and courtroom appearances. How did one of Hollywood's brightest young stars lose everything? And perhaps even more importantly, how did she find her way back? This is the rise, the fall, and the comeback of Lindsay Lohan. Long before social media influencers, YouTube creators, and TikTok stars dominated the entertainment world, Lindsay Lohan had already become one of the most recognizable young faces in America. In an era when television commercials and blockbuster movies were the fastest route to fame, Lindsay's journey began astonishingly early. Born on July 2, 1986, in New York City and raised on Long Island, she seemed destined for the spotlight from the very beginning. At just 3 years old, Lindsay signed with the prestigious Ford Models Agency, becoming one of the youngest children to ever work with the company. Before most kids had even started preschool, she was already appearing in advertisements for major brands such as Calvin Klein, Pizza Hut, Wendy's, and Jell-O. Her bright red hair, freckled face, and infectious smile made her instantly memorable, while her natural confidence in front of the camera impressed photographers and casting directors alike. Unlike many child models who needed constant direction, Lindsay seemed completely at ease, effortlessly capturing attention whenever the cameras started rolling. Commercial work soon opened the door to television appearances. She landed small acting roles in popular shows and soap operas, giving her valuable experience long before stepping onto a movie set. Industry professionals quickly noticed that she possessed something special. She wasn't simply photogenic. She had remarkable comedic timing, emotional range, and an ability to connect with audiences far beyond her years. Everything changed in 1998 when Disney cast the 11-year-old Lindsay as the lead in The Parent Trap, a modern remake of the beloved 1961 classic. The role was an enormous challenge for any actor, let alone a child. Lindsay had to portray identical twins, Annie James and Hallie Parker, two sisters separated shortly after birth who accidentally meet at summer camp and hatch a plan to reunite their divorced parents. The film relied almost entirely on Lindsay's performance. Using groundbreaking visual effects for the time, she had to act opposite herself in countless scenes, carefully switching between two completely different personalities. Annie was the polite, sophisticated girl raised in London, while Hallie was the adventurous, outspoken Californian. Lindsay made each twin feel like a real, unique person, so convincing that many viewers genuinely believed Disney had hired actual twin sisters. When The Parent Trap premiered, both critics and audiences were blown away. Reviewers praised Lindsay's charm, confidence, and surprisingly mature acting abilities. The film became a box office success and introduced her to millions of viewers around the world. Almost overnight, Hollywood had discovered its next child superstar. Disney immediately recognized her enormous potential. Unlike many young actors who relied solely on cuteness, Lindsay possessed a rare combination of charisma, comedic talent, emotional depth, and undeniable screen presence. She could make audiences laugh one moment and move them emotionally the next. Producers, directors, and studio executives all believed they were witnessing the rise of Hollywood's next great leading actress. From the outside, Lindsay Lohan's future looked almost guaranteed. She had the talent, the opportunities, and one of the most powerful studios in the world supporting her career. Every new role seemed bigger than the last, and it appeared that nothing could stop her ascent to superstardom. But there was one problem. Fame had arrived before she was even old enough to understand its consequences. And as history would soon prove, growing up in front of the entire world came with a price that no child could have been prepared to pay. By the early 2000s, Lindsay Lohan had become one of the brightest young stars in Hollywood. After the success of The Parent Trap, Disney quickly realized they had found a once-in-a-generation talent. She wasn't just another child actress. She had the charisma, comedic timing, and screen presence to carry major films on her own. In 2003, she starred alongside Jamie Lee Curtis in Freaky Friday, a hilarious body swap comedy that became both a critical and commercial success. Audiences loved Lindsay's ability to switch effortlessly between teenage humor and adult mannerisms, proving that her acting skills extended far beyond what anyone expected from someone her age. The following year, she reunited with Disney for Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, further strengthening her image as the studio's biggest young star. Teenagers everywhere admired her style, confidence, and relatable on-screen personality. But then came 2004. One movie didn't just elevate her career. It turned her into a pop culture icon. Mean Girls. Written by comedian and writer Tina Fey, the film offered a clever, satirical look at high school life and the complicated social hierarchies teenagers navigate every day. Lindsay played Katie Heron, a girl who had spent her childhood being homeschooled in Africa before suddenly finding herself in the unfamiliar world of an American high school. Her performance perfectly balanced innocence, humor, and emotional vulnerability, making Katie a character audiences instantly connected with. The film was a massive box office success and quickly became one of the most beloved teen comedies ever made. Lines like, "On Wednesdays we wear pink," and "You can't sit with us" became part of everyday pop culture and are still quoted by fans decades later. At only 18 years old, Lindsay seemed unstoppable. She had blockbuster movies, magazine covers, endorsement deals, a successful music career with her albums Speak and A Little More Personal, Raw, and millions of devoted fans across the globe. Every studio wanted to work with her, every red carpet wanted her appearance, and every magazine wanted her on the cover. From the outside, Lindsay Lohan appeared to be living the perfect Hollywood dream. But behind the flashing cameras and glamorous premieres, the pressure of constant fame was quietly beginning to take its toll. As Lindsay's career reached its peak, the entertainment industry itself was beginning to change. The mid-2000s saw the explosive rise of celebrity gossip culture. Tabloids competed to publish the most shocking headlines, while paparazzi photographers earned thousands of dollars for a single picture of a celebrity making a mistake. Unlike today, where stars can tell their own stories through social media, celebrities had very little control over their public image. Every night out, every rumor, and every personal struggle became front-page news. Lindsay wasn't the only young woman caught in this relentless media storm. Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, and Nicole Richie were constantly followed by photographers, with every move documented and criticized. The media often portrayed these women as reckless party girls, turning their personal lives into public entertainment. But among them, Lindsay seemed trapped in an especially destructive cycle. As her fame grew, reports of late-night partying became increasingly common. She was frequently photographed leaving clubs in the early hours of the morning, often surrounded by other celebrities. At the same time, stories began to emerge that she was arriving late to movie sets, missing filming days altogether, and clashing with directors and producers. Rumors about alcohol and drug use circulated for months before they became impossible to ignore. Then came 2007, the year that dramatically changed the public's perception of Lindsay Lohan. She was arrested twice for driving under the influence, And during one of those arrests, police discovered a small amount of cocaine in her possession. Overnight, the conversation shifted completely. Instead of discussing her latest movie or upcoming projects, newspapers focused almost exclusively on her legal troubles. Court appearances replaced movie premieres. Rehab became a recurring headline. Probation violations, brief jail sentences, and repeated trips back to court created the impression that Lindsay's life was spiraling out of control. Every few months seemed to bring another scandal, each one generating millions of clicks and newspaper sales. The public fascination became almost obsessive. Television hosts mocked her mistakes, late-night comedians turned her personal struggles into punchlines, and gossip magazines built entire covers around her latest setback. Looking back today, many people believe the media crossed a line. Rather than showing compassion toward a young woman clearly struggling under enormous pressure, much of the entertainment industry treated her pain as a source of profit and amusement. What was once considered harmless celebrity gossip is now widely viewed as one of the darkest chapters of modern tabloid culture. As Lindsay Lohan's legal troubles continued to dominate the headlines, the consequences reached far beyond her personal life. In Hollywood, reputation is everything, and studios began to view her as a financial risk rather than a promising actress. Filmmaking is an expensive business, with productions often costing tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. Investors and insurance companies expect reliability, and Lindsay's increasingly unpredictable public image made executives nervous. Producers began asking difficult questions before offering her a role. Would she arrive on set on time? Would filming be interrupted by another court hearing or rehab stay? Could the production afford the delays if something went wrong? In some cases, insurance companies reportedly charged significantly higher premiums or refused coverage altogether for projects involving her. Even though Lindsay remained a talented actress, many studios simply decided the risk outweighed the potential reward. As a result, the major roles that had once seemed guaranteed slowly disappeared. Scripts that would have landed on her desk a few years earlier were now offered to other rising stars. Directors who had once praised her talent stopped calling, and producers became reluctant to cast her in high-profile projects. The transformation was dramatic. Only a short time earlier, Lindsay had been one of Hollywood's brightest young actresses. Now, her name appeared more often in celebrity gossip magazines than on movie posters. Throughout the late 2000s and early 2010s, she accepted a handful of independent films and smaller productions, but none were able to restore her former status. The public's perception had shifted. Instead of discussing her performances, interviews often focused on her personal life, legal battles, and attempts to stay sober. For many people, the actress behind iconic films like Mean Girls and Freaky Friday had been overshadowed by the constant stream of tabloid headlines. To outside observers, it seemed almost impossible that Lindsay could ever reclaim the career she once had. Hollywood is famous for embracing the next new star, and it often moves on quickly from those whose careers stumble. Once an actor is labeled as unreliable or difficult, that reputation can follow them for years, regardless of whether it still reflects reality. Many critics, journalists, and even longtime fans quietly assumed her career was over for good. The little girl who had once been celebrated as Disney's brightest talent appeared destined to become another cautionary tale about the dangers of childhood fame. But life doesn't always follow Hollywood's script. Sometimes, the most meaningful comeback doesn't begin under the bright lights of a movie premiere. It begins far away from the cameras, when no one is watching. Rather than continuing to chase the spotlight, Lindsay Lohan made a decision that surprised many people. She stepped away from it. After years of living under constant media scrutiny, she chose a quieter life outside the United States, spending much of her time in Dubai. There she found something that had been missing for most of her adult life: privacy. Away from the relentless paparazzi and tabloid culture that had followed her for years, Lindsay was finally able to focus on herself instead of constantly defending herself in public. For the first time in over a decade, the headlines began to fade. Instead of making news for court appearances or personal struggles, she concentrated on rebuilding her life and finding stability. While she occasionally appeared in television interviews and smaller projects, she largely stayed out of the spotlight, allowing time to heal both personally and professionally. Then, in 2022, Netflix gave her an opportunity to return to acting with the holiday romantic comedy Falling for Christmas. The film wasn't designed to be an award-winning masterpiece or a major blockbuster. Instead, it offered something audiences had been missing for years: the charming, funny, and effortlessly likable Lindsay Lohan they had grown up watching. Fans embraced her return with enthusiasm, celebrating not just the movie, but the chance to see her smiling on screen again. Her personal life also entered a happier chapter. In 2022, she married financier Bader Shammas, and in 2023, the couple welcomed their first child. For many fans, Lindsay's story had evolved from one of public downfall into one of resilience, growth, and second chances. A reminder that even after years of hardship, it's never too late to start over. Lindsay Lohan's story isn't simply about celebrity scandals. It's about growing up under impossible expectations. It's about making mistakes while millions of people watch. It's about an entertainment industry that often builds young stars up, only to tear them down. Today, public opinion has shifted. Instead of mocking celebrities struggling with addiction or mental health, many people now ask a different question. Could Hollywood have protected its young stars better? Lindsay's journey reminds us that redemption is possible. Careers can recover. People can change. And sometimes, the greatest comeback isn't returning to the spotlight. It's finding peace away from it. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see the story of another celebrity, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your suggestions for who I should